Hello everybody and welcome back to another week of Premier League predictions. And guys, let's get this out the way, the worst part of the video. It is for those that have been keeping up with the weekly predictions. James is extending his lead on me. He's now got 7 points to my 3 last week. It's another 4 points that he's in front. And I'm really needing a Christmas miracle if I'm going to catch him up by the end of the year. Can I pull it off? Who knows? But I definitely need a big week this week. So let's waste no more time. Let's jump straight into these Premier League predictions. And we start off with Nottingham Forest, who take on Spurs. And for Nottingham Forest, it was a good point against Wolves. It was an interesting style of play, I must admit, being at the game. It did feel like Forest just went... I wouldn't say they went for the point, but they played defensively. They tried to exploit the counter-attack, and in some ways it did work. Forest did come away with a point, and it could be a point that, at the time of recording, might have saved Steve Cooper's job. Be interesting to see it when this comes out. It's only a day later, but if he is still in a job. When we look at Spurs, though, they got a big win, and it was a big win against Newcastle. And this makes it for a tough game to predict because Forest historically have been very good at home. I still think the majority of the fans are with Steve Cooper. But it's going to be a tough ask because this Tottenham team does look like they're starting to now build a bit of momentum. Now, some of their players are inevitably returning from injury. It's no surprise they are getting better. And for that reason, I am going to narrowly predict a Spurs win. I'm going to go Spurs 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Let's move on to speak about Bournemouth, who take on Luton next. And I've got to be honest, probably 2 teams that I do praise, but maybe I don't praise enough in all honesty because Bournemouth continue to look very good. And Luton continue with that fight that they continue to put on week in, week out. It maybe isn't resulting in points, but at some point, I think it's going to. I still back Luton to be one of the bottom 3 of those 3 that are in the bottom at the moment. If anyone's going to make it out, I think it will be Luton. I just feel they've got something, that grit in between their teeth, which might get them out of that bottom 3. But they come up against a very, very good Bournemouth team who should be rightfully absolutely delighted with how they're playing at the moment, and they continue to climb up the table, and it's probably what Bournemouth were hoping to see when they did make their appointment, obviously inevitably getting rid of Gary O'Neill at the start of the season. So it's no surprise in this one. I think it's going to be a close game, but I am going to give it to the home team. I'm going to go for another 2-1. I'm going to go Bournemouth 2, Luton Town 1. Let's move on to Chelsea now, and you've got to laugh at them at the moment because things are not going well at the Bridge. But a chance to redeem themselves against Sheffield United? Maybe, but this is not going to be an easy game because it looks like Sheffield United look a little bit of a different team, to be fair, under Chris Wilder. Of course, it's maybe a little bit too early to make such decisions about whether it's going to have a massive change on the end impact and how many points they're now going to be able to accumulate. But you would say that they at least look a bit more together, a bit more kind of unified and a bit more belief maybe amongst the fans, but the players also in the way that they're playing. The early signs are good. Could they cause an upset against Chelsea? Wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to narrowly give it to Chelsea, though. I think they've got to win this one. I really do. And I think they'll narrowly do it. It won't be impressive, but they'll get the job done. I'm going to go 1-0 to Chelsea. Let's move on to speak about Man City, who take on Crystal Palace now. And I want to start with Crystal Palace, actually, because I think they'll be pretty annoyed. A very controversial second yellow for IU in their game. And you wonder, could they have ended up taking away 3 points or at least a point against Liverpool? Of course, when that second booking did happen, only momentarily, of course, but at that point they were leading Liverpool and they were doing well in that game as well. They ended up going on to lose that, and once again, it's another, obviously, loss on the books for Crystal Palace. They'll come up against a Man City team who won't be wanting to drop any more points themselves. They've got to keep themselves in this title race, and they've not had the most impressive couple of weeks either. Of course, as we know, Erling Haaland will be out, and it's going to be the last game, isn't it, actually, before they go off to that Club World Cup. I mean, they talk a good game about wanting a different challenge, etc., etc. I don't believe City really want to go across to that Club World Cup that they're going to. I think they have to say certain stuff, obviously, for commercial reasons. But before they do depart, I do think they'll get the job done. And I think they will get a nice 2-0 win over Palace. Hi guys, what's going on? A couple of weeks ago, I set you guys the target, try and get us to 5,500 subscribers before the end of the year. When I said it, do you know what? It was an ambitious target, but you guys have been smashing it the last couple of weeks, really helping us out. It's massively appreciated, but we need you for that one final push. So if you can do us a massive favor, hit that like button, get your comment in, but most importantly, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And let's get back to these Premier League predictions. Let's move on to speak about Newcastle next, who take on Fulham. And again, another really tough game to predict. Why? Because Fulham are in such great form. Of course, 2 back-to-back games where they've recorded 5 goals. And Newcastle, the wheels are just slightly looking like they're falling off just a little, obviously because of their injury crisis. But albeit, they're entering the busiest time of the season at the moment, and the games are just going to keep coming quick and fast. And you do have to fear for this Newcastle United team. How are they going to get through this period? How are they going to, just carry on to manage on all fronts? I think they do need to make more signings to be able to be consistent at the top level, obviously for the future. And I'm sure they will, but that doesn't help the problem now. This is going to be a tough one to predict, though, because it is at St. James's Park. And Newcastle is still a very good team. I think the points will be shared in this one. I'm going to go for a high-scoring 2-2 draw. Let's move on to speak about Burnley next, who take on Everton. And, of course, 2 teams who will be feeling better about themselves at the moment. Everton especially already making their way out of the bottom 3 after their huge 10-point deduction. And let's be honest, I don't think any of us are thinking that Everton are going to go down because they look like a really well-oiled machine at the moment. Questions do have to be asked of former boss Frank Lampard, because when you look at Sean Dyche and what he's getting out of the team compared to Frank Lampard, let's be honest, they're just absolute worlds apart. He has had some help, though. Of course, new signings are doing well. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is back. Well, he was back, weren't he? I don't know if he's had another knock or something. But anyway, those things have helped. But they come up against the Burnley team, who might feel a little bit more confident in the way they're feeling as well. So it's going to make for an interesting game at a Turf Moor. I do think Everton will get the job done, though, once again. And I am going to give it to Everton, a narrow margin. And I actually have gone for another 2-1 prediction in this one. Let's move on to West Ham next, who take on a Wolves team who, look, it's really hard to predict Wolves at the moment. It depends on what team turns up. But sometimes this Wolves team look quite exciting. The last 2 games against Burnley and Nottingham Forest, they've looked very drab, but they've managed to get 4 points out the last 2 games rather. So at least they're getting points on the board. West Ham, again, another tough team to predict. Sometimes they look like a really good team who are capable of getting into the top 6. Other times they look like they should be quite far down the table. I've found West Ham a bit of a weird one to predict this season, and really just understand what they're kind of doing and what they're coming with, because they've got good signings, don't get me wrong, but there has been an element of inconsistency about them. Think for that reason, I'm going to go for a score draw. I'm going to go 1-1 in this one. I think the points will be shared. And in all honesty, it could go either way. Let's talk about Brentford next, who take on Aston Villa. And of course, we've got to start with speaking about Aston Villa. Are they serious title contenders? At the moment, I don't think you can doubt them. 15 league games in a row that they have won at home. Well, of course, they are away from home in this one. But, people do say that Villa's home form isn't that good. But it is good. It's just not that good compared to the home form, which, of course, when you've won 15 straight games in a row, it's a big ask to manage that and match it rather. They come up against the Brentford team, though, who really are in good form. And usually Brentford at home, they can get some good results. They're a hard team to beat at home, but you've got to start looking at their recent form. They've obviously lost Tony for a good part of the season. They've now got other injuries that are impacting them as well. And you do wonder, is this Brentford team a little bit narrow when those injuries do start picking up? I think so, and I think at the moment you can't back against Aston Villa, can you? Even away from home. I'm going to go for Brentford 0, Aston Villa 2 in this one. Next up, we've got Arsenal, who take on Brighton, and Look, it's been an interesting few weeks for Arsenal. I don't think they've been particularly playing well at times, but have got the results over the line. But they weren't particularly impressive as well against Villa and inevitably lost that game. They come up against a good, tough Brighton team, a Brighton team that have got the capability to hurt Arsenal and to get the win. The question is, will they? Arsenal, usually a good team at home. And I think there's a bit of pressure on them. There's a lot of teams competing for that title, the likes of Villa, likes of Liverpool, likes of City. And all these teams can't really afford to keep dropping points. I'm going to go for Arsenal. I think they'll get the job done. I think it'll be a really close game, and then they'll go and get another late goal to extend the lead. So for that reason, I'm going to go Arsenal 3, Brighton 1. Next up I think this is the last one. It's Liverpool versus Man United, and historically, this would be a huge, huge game to speak about. Of course, it still is a huge game. It's two, historically big teams. It would usually be a very hard one to predict. I don't think this is a very hard one to predict at the moment. Liverpool at home, the way they're looking this season. Can I back Manchester United at all? No, not really. It's no surprise, guys. I'm going to go Liverpool to win this one, and I'm going to go Liverpool 3, Manchester United 0. Guys, if you have enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and please do subscribe as well. And let me bring up James's predictions, and the one that's instantly I've seen straight away is Liverpool 6, Manchester United 0. So he's feeling even more confident than me about that one. We've obviously got a few more differences as well. If you want to study them properly, pause the video, take a look. And whilst you do that, like the video, comment, and please do hit that subscribe. As I said, get us to that 5,500 number. I'm sure I'll see you guys before Christmas, but a lot of you will be having Christmas festivities this weekend, whether it's a Christmas party or just time with the family. So do enjoy that as well. And hopefully we will see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.